Hi there again! Following the interest and good reception on my last videos, I've decided to go on with this gaming platform related rankings. You know the drill. Metacritic scores plus user scores plus review volume. Plain and simple. I'm pretty sure it is the most precise and unique score analysis available on this kind of ranking videos, where I make sure to provide you with a unique and innovative methodology to rank videos, where I don't casually base them on personal opinion, but on actual data. With that out of the way, today we are gonna rank the best game of a beloved console of its generation, where sales, sadly, did not do justice to its quality. We are talking about the amazing Nintendo GameCube. The GameCube era was packed with experimentation, iconic franchises, and some of Nintendo's boldest design choices. So this list isn't just about which games reviewed well, it's about which ones managed to maintain that quality across both critics and players and over time. As a result, you might see some expected classics, but also a few surprises depending on how well they held up in broader reception. This is a ranking built on data, but shaped by legacy. So people, let's begin. Starting with one of my favorites, Mario Kart Double Dash takes the classic kart racing formula and flips it with one of the most unique mechanics in the series: 2 characters per kart. This system isn't just a gimmick, it adds a layer of strategy, letting players swap between drivers for better item management and special abilities tied to each duo. The gameplay stays fast and chaotic, but with more depth than it initially appears. What really makes it stand out is its identity. From the tight track design to the emphasis on cooperative play, it feels distinct even within its own franchise. While it didn't reach the same universal acclaim as some other entries, its originality and lasting fan appreciation give it a strong and memorable legacy. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is one of those games that feels ahead of its time, especially in how it blends platforming, combat, and narrative into a single cohesive experience. The core mechanic, the ability to rewind time, isn't just innovative, it fundamentally reshapes how players approach mistakes, turning failure into part of the gameplay loop rather than a punishment. Movement is fluid and deliberate, with wall runs and acrobatics that make traversal feel almost like a puzzle in itself. Its critical reception reflects that balance: innovation, execution, and lasting influence all working together to make it a standout title of its generation. Personally, that's my favorite Prince of Persia because, compared to the others, the platforming in this game is superb. Star Wars Rogue Leader Rogue Squadron 2 delivers one of the most authentic and cinematic flight combat experiences of its time, especially on the GameCube. Its core gameplay revolves around tight, responsive controls paired with mission-based objectives that recreate iconic battles from the Star Wars universe with impressive accuracy. What really stands out is its presentation. Visually, it pushed the hardware hard, and combined with its sound design, it genuinely feels like stepping into the original trilogy. The difficulty can be demanding, but that precision is part of its identity. Critically, it earned strong recognition not just for its technical achievements, but for capturing the essence of Star Wars in gameplay form. Tales of Symphonia stands out as one of the most ambitious RPGs on the GameCube, blending real-time combat with a deep and expansive narrative. Its battle system keeps things active and engaging, moving away from traditional turn-based mechanics and giving players more direct control in fights. But where it really shines is in its story and world building. It tackles themes like sacrifice, inequality, and destiny, all while developing a large cast of characters that evolve throughout the journey. The sheer scale of the adventure, combined with its emotional weight, helped it resonate strongly with both critics and players. Its high reception reflects not just quality, but the impact it had on the RPG genre at the time. Super Mario Sunshine takes the core 3D platforming formula of the series and builds around one central mechanic, the flood system, which completely changes how you move and interact with the world. It adds a layer of precision and experimentation, whether you're hovering across gaps or cleaning up the island's environments. What makes it stand out is its identity. The tropical setting, cohesive world design, and more narrative-driven structure give it a different feel compared to other Mario titles. At the same time, that ambition comes with some inconsistency, especially in its difficulty spikes. Still, its creativity and distinct approach have earned it lasting appreciation, even if its reception was slightly more divided at launch. SSX3 takes the arcade snowboarding formula and expands it into a fully connected mountain, creating a sense of flow and freedom that was rare at the time. Instead of isolated tracks, you're carving your way down massive runs that seamlessly link together, which makes the gameplay feel both fast and immersive. The trick system is smooth and rewarding, striking a balance between accessibility and depth, while the open structure encourages exploration as much as competition. Combined with its dynamic soundtrack and strong sense of style, it delivers a very complete experience. Critically, it stood out for refining the series and pushing it forward, earning its place as one of the defining sports titles of its generation. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance brings a more grounded and narrative-heavy approach to tactical RPG gameplay, while still keeping the series' core permadeath strategy intact. Every move on the battlefield matters, because positioning, unit synergy, and long-term planning can completely shift the outcome of a fight. What really elevates it is its story and tone. It follows Ike's journey in a more mature, politically driven conflict that feels slower and more deliberate than typical fantasy epics. The character writing is strong, and the world building gives real weight to each battle. Critically, it was praised for refining the tactical formula while delivering one of the most complete and emotionally grounded entries in the franchise. Pikmin is a unique real-time strategy experience that blends exploration, resource management, and urgency into a surprisingly tense loop. You guide small groups of Pikmin through a mysterious planet, solving environmental puzzles and battling creatures, all while constantly racing against a strict day-night cycle that limits your progress. What makes it stand out is how it turns efficiency into pressure. Every second matters, and every loss feels meaningful. The simplicity of its controls contrasts with the depth of planning required, creating a very distinct rhythm compared to other strategy games. Critically, it was praised for originality and design purity, introducing a franchise that would become one of Nintendo's most inventive. F-Zero GX is one of the most intense and technically demanding racing games ever released on the GameCube. It pushes speed to extremes, where mastering tight corners, boost management, and razor-thin tracks becomes essential just to stay competitive. There's almost no room for error, and that's exactly what defines its identity. What sets it apart is its sheer difficulty combined with precision gameplay. It rewards complete control and pattern recognition, turning every race into a high-risk, high-reward challenge. Visually and mechanically, it also pushed the hardware with a sense of scale and speed that still feels impressive today. Critically, it was praised for its depth and purity of design, even if its steep learning curve made it inaccessible for some players. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is widely regarded as one of the most refined RPG experiences on the GameCube, blending turn-based combat with timing-based inputs that keep every battle interactive and engaging. Instead of passive menu selection, your actions feel active, rewarding precision and consistency in both offense and defense. What really elevates it is its writing and structure. The story is light-hearted on the surface, but layered with clever humor, memorable characters, and surprisingly strong emotional moments as the adventure unfolds. Each chapter feels distinct, almost like its own mini-story, which keeps the pacing consistently fresh. Critically, it was praised for its charm, design depth, and standout personality within the RPG genre. Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem is a psychological horror game that stands out less for jump scares and more for how it breaks player expectations. Its core gameplay mixes exploration, combat, and puzzle solving across multiple time periods. But what truly defines it is the sanity system, which deliberately distorts the experience as your character loses mental stability. The game plays with perception in ways that were extremely unusual at the time: fake error messages, visual distortions, and unpredictable effects that blur the line between game and player awareness. Its narrative structure, spanning different characters and eras, ties into a larger cosmic horror story that gradually builds tension and mystery. Critically, it was praised for its ambition and originality, even if its mechanics could feel uneven, cementing it as a cult classic. Soul Calibur 2 is one of the most polished weapon-based fighting games of its generation, delivering fast, fluid combat that's easy to pick up but deeply technical at higher levels. Each character has a distinct fighting style built around their weapon, which makes matchups feel varied and strategic rather than purely reflex-driven. A big part of its legacy comes from its presentation and crossover appeal, especially with guest characters on different platforms. Still, at its core, it's the tight gameplay that carries it. The controls are responsive, the animations are clean, and the pacing rewards both aggression and defense in equal measure. Personally, I find the GameCube version to be the best one, since you can play with Link, which I find amazing. Pikmin 2 expands on the original by removing the strict time limit and shifting the focus more toward exploration, strategy, and resource gathering. Instead of racing against the clock, you're now diving deeper into layered environments, managing multiple Pikmin types, and collecting treasures in a more open-ended structure. The gameplay loop becomes more experimental, especially with the introduction of caves, which add multi-floor dungeon-like sections that change pacing significantly. It still keeps the core tension of controlling fragile units in a hostile world, but with more freedom to approach challenges at your own rhythm. Critically, it was praised for refining the formula and offering more depth, even if some fans preferred the urgency of the original. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes takes the atmospheric exploration of the first game and pushes it into a darker, more fragmented experience. The core gameplay still revolves around first-person exploration, scanning, and environmental puzzle solving, but it introduces a stronger emphasis on combat pressure and resource management. Its defining feature is the light and dark ether dual world system, which forces constant switching between environments that change gameplay conditions and threat levels. This adds tension but also makes progression more demanding and sometimes more restrictive compared to its predecessor. Still, its world design, atmosphere, and ambition were widely praised, even if its difficulty and structure made it less accessible to some players. Resident Evil Remake is a masterclass in survival horror design, taking the foundation of the original game and rebuilding it with significantly improved visuals, pacing, and atmosphere. The gameplay stays rooted in deliberate, tension-heavy exploration, where limited resources and fixed camera angles force careful decision-making rather than fast reactions. What defines it most is its atmosphere. Every corridor, sound cue, and lighting choice is designed to build constant unease. The mansion itself feels like a puzzle box, where progression is tied to both exploration and environmental problem solving. My take on this game is that this is probably the best classic pre-remakes Resident Evil. The game is really challenging, and it has maybe the best atmosphere in the entire franchise. The mansion is simply a piece of art. Super Smash Bros. Melee is one of the most influential fighting games ever made, taking Nintendo's crossover formula and turning it into something far faster, deeper, and more technical than anyone expected. The core gameplay is simple to understand: knock opponents off the stage, but its mechanics create an incredibly high skill ceiling with advanced movement, combos, and precision timing. What really defines Melee is its speed and competitive depth. Matches feel explosive, with constant momentum shifts and a level of control that rewards mastery at every frame. At the same time, it remains packed with personality, bringing together Nintendo's biggest characters in a way that still feels iconic today. Critically, it was praised for its depth and longevity, eventually becoming a cornerstone of competitive gaming culture. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess takes a darker, more grounded approach to the Zelda formula, blending traditional dungeon-based progression with a heavier narrative tone and more realistic visual style. The gameplay balances exploration, puzzle solving, and combat, with Wolf Link introducing a different set of mechanics that add variety to traversal and environmental interaction. What defines it most is its atmosphere and scale. Hyrule feels more expansive and serious in tone, with a story that leans into conflict, transformation, and a sense of looming threat. While its pacing can feel slower compared to other entries, its dungeon design and cinematic presentation were widely praised. Critically, it stood out as a return to classic Zelda structure, refined with modern ambition and stronger narrative weight. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker stands out immediately for its bold, cel-shaded art style, which initially divided opinions but ultimately became one of the most iconic visual directions in the series. Beneath that style, the gameplay stays true to classic Zelda structure: exploration, puzzle solving, and dungeon progression, but framed within a vast ocean world built around sailing and discovery. What really defines it is its sense of adventure and atmosphere. Traveling between islands creates a slower, more exploratory rhythm, where the journey itself becomes just as important as the destinations. Over time, its charm, world design, and emotional storytelling helped it earn strong critical appreciation, solidifying it as one of the most distinctive and beloved entries in the franchise. Resident Evil 4 2005 completely redefined the survival action genre by shifting the series into an over the shoulder perspective that made combat far more direct and intense. The gameplay is built around precision aiming, crowd control, and constant pressure, where every encounter feels like a small tactical situation rather than just a survival check. What makes it so impactful is how perfectly it balances action and tension. Even as it becomes more combat focused, it never fully loses that survival horror edge, especially through limited resources and aggressive enemy design. Its pacing is extremely tight, constantly introducing new scenarios and mechanics that keep the experience fresh. Critically, it was praised as a landmark release that influenced an entire generation of third person action games. Taking the highest spot, a legendary game unmatched within its genre, in my opinion, Metroid Prime successfully translates the 2D exploration roots of Metroid into a first person perspective without losing the series' core identity. Instead of focusing purely on combat, the gameplay is built around exploration, environmental storytelling, and scanning your surroundings to slowly piece together the world of Talon 4. What really defines it is its atmosphere and sense of isolation. The world feels interconnected and deliberately paced, encouraging careful observation rather than rushing forward. Combat is present but secondary to discovery, which makes progression feel earned rather than handed to the player. Critically, it was praised for its bold design shift and immersive world building, setting a new standard for first person adventure games. And that's the top 20 highest rated GameCube games of all time, ranked using a mix of critic scores, user ratings, and review volume to get a more complete picture of each game's real impact. This isn't just about high scores, it's about consistency, popularity, and how well these games held up across a massive number of players. Now I'm really curious, do you agree with this ranking, or is there a game you think was completely underrated or placed way too low? Let me know your top picks in the comments, I'll be checking them. If you enjoyed this kind of data driven ranking, make sure to like and subscribe because I'm planning to cover more consoles and more all time lists like this. And if you want to see a specific ranking next, just drop it below.